What's up, Breakthrough Success listeners? Marc Guberti, the author of YouTube Decoded, where we teach you how to gain visibility for your videos and make revenue with your YouTube content. And when it comes to podcasting, because podcasting is such a great medium, I say this all the time, as we've done over 400 episodes on Breakthrough Success. So, I mean, just podcasting has done so much for me. It's done so much for our guest who's going to join us shortly. But I feel like a lot of people, they do podcasting and they just say, like, you know, I built the relationships and the networking and that's my ROI. But when we talk about cold, hard cash, I mean, that's not something you see in podcasting very often. You sure hear about people who get sponsorships and stuff like that, but you think it's something that only a big show can attain. So we're going to bust some of those myths and share how you can start making money with your podcast right now. The guest who joins us today, he is an entrepreneur and industry leader. His book, Nice Guys Finish First, is a #1 ranked Amazon bestseller. And he's a podcast host of the Nice Guys podcast. He's interviewed people like Gary Vee, Ariana Huffington, John C. Maxwell, a ton of entrepreneurial celebrities. Our guest is also a nationally recognized speaker, writer, and founder of Turnkey Podcast Company, which provides podcast production, editing, and launching services. His podcast, Nice Guys, has nearly 1,000 episodes and has been downloaded 3.2 million times in over 175 countries, which is pretty insane. But our guest who joins us today for this episode of Breakthrough Success is none other than Doug Sandler, DJ Doug for New Media Summit people. Doug, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mark, props to you, brother. I can't believe it. 400 episodes. When did you start? When you were 2? I mean, well, when did you do this? I mean, I've been podcasting for 5 years. You would have been, what, 16 at that point or something like that? We're at 1,000 episodes. You're at 400. That is crazy. If you do it as long as I am old, you'll be on episode, I think if my calculations are correct, 120,000. Welcome.
It's definitely a pleasure to have you on the show. 10,000, by the way. That is, I definitely feel like I could hit that. That's a side goal of mine. But for people who are listening, maybe they have their podcast, maybe you're thinking of starting your own podcast. So there's definitely a lot of people with a lot of different goals here. But podcasting isn't just a way to network. I mean, like Doug and I talking together, like that's the way most people see podcasting, but you can get clients, but you can't get sponsors. So Doug's going to share with us a ton about that. Before we do that though, can you share with us why you got into podcasting and how you got started with this medium?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on the show, and thanks for asking the question. In 2013, I reinvented my career. I had spent the last 30 years before that as a guy up in front of a crowd as a mobile DJ, as an MC, and running high-end social events in the DC marketplace. And there was only so long that I really wanted to, at that point in my mid-40s, there was only so long that I wanted to spend time doing the cha-cha slide and the Cupid shuffle. And while I have fun doing those, I didn't want to have to do those to make a living. So I thought it was time for a slight pivot, a career reinvention, and I moved over to professional speaking, which really isn't a far cry from mobile DJing because you're just opening up your microphone for a longer period of time. So started DJing, started professionally speaking, wrote a book, wanted a way to promote the book, and podcasting came into my life in 2015. And it was a long struggle. It was almost a 2-year struggle to make any money from it. And then once we discovered that secret pill, that silver bullet, we haven't turned back since. In our early on months, we were doing between $20,000 and $40,000 every month in income from our show. And I can prove to you through our own case study that it doesn't matter what size audience that you have. You could have 0 people listening to your show and you could still make money. And if that's not a teaser for how did you do it, then I don't know what would be.
Yeah, that's the thing I love about Doug's method, because Doug and I have masterminded together twice now, many more in the future. But I mean, just hearing, like, a lot of people just think sponsors, and Doug has sponsors for his show. I have sponsors for my show, but that's not the only way you make money with podcasting. A big part of that, I mean, like how I mentioned my book, YouTube Decoded, like that's going to be more money too. But a big part of that, what Doug is doing is turning some of his guests into clients. So I'm wondering what your overall approach is for making that happen.
Sure. So if you look at it this way, every time you open up your microphone, you have the potential to build a relationship with a guest on your show. So when I looked at it and I thought, well, I could build a big community and I could get influence and I could really work my magic in building a large community and Facebook groups and all sorts of different ways that I had never dealt with before. But I thought, you know, I'm really good at building relationships in a short period of time. So why don't I take advantage of the opportunity to qualify a guest before they come on the show that not only do I know they have a great story and they can share that story with my community that I've built, if there is any community, but maybe make sure that they're also qualified to buy the services that I actually provide. And at the time, it was professional training and professional speaking services. So if somebody wanted me to come out and train their company for sales training or customer service training, the ideal person to bring on my show as a guest was somebody that not only has a great story to share about their organization, but potentially would be in a position to be able to hire me to come into their organization and do my magic for their company. Then once we started building the podcast, more people were asking me about, hey, how is it that you built such a large audience? Or how is it that you monetized your show? Or how is it that you built influence with your show? Can you share those with me? And we just started a podcast production company. And then I discovered really easily, I'd much rather make money from my pajamas than actually having to travel across the country to train an organization for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah. And I mean, it is really interesting how you strategically pick who you interview, and then you interview those people. Like, how does that go, like, in terms of the selling? Like, are you saying, like, like YouTube Decoded, like my book, for instance, are you like mentioning that a little bit during the interview, or is it more of the post conversation, that like part that listeners don't hear that turns into the sale?
No, I actually, when you get really good at doing the system that I've created, you can actually sell your customer right on the air, and they won't even know you're selling them while they're on the air. For me, it's a matter of early on in the process, when I didn't have many people applying to be on my show, the thing that I had to focus on is who would buy the services that I have to sell. Who is it that the ideal person to pay me? And if I thought about it, it might be a senior VP of sales. It may be the director of customer service within an organization. It may be a speakers bureau that may be looking for additional clients. So I would say, let's take that senior VP of sales. I'd get that person that was on the show. I would ask them several questions ahead of time about do they believe in coaching? Do they believe in training? What type of conferences do they go to? Have they ever brought in an outside coach, an outside consultant? I mean, those are questions that would fit well into the scheme of what they're actually going to talk about, but it also helps me qualify whether that would be somebody that would potentially be a client of mine as well. Advancing that down the road, now, because we're so far into our run, nearly 1,000 episodes as of the airing of this and 3.5 million downloads, we get a ton of people that request to be on the show. So I'm not only qualifying people as guests to be on my show, but I'm qualifying them as clients for my business too. So I guess I'm looking at it and saying people aren't filling out an application to be on my show. They're actually filling out an application to be a client of mine. And I oftentimes will say to my potential clients, my future clients, how would you like it if your clients called you and say, I want to buy what you have, and you're not even making any prospecting calls? I make 0 prospecting calls using podcasting as my only source.
Yeah, and that's the amazing thing. Like, that's why I do a ton of interviews. Breakthrough Success, I do 2 episodes a week. Profitable Public Speaking, 1 episode a week. I used to do 5 episodes a week on Breakthrough Success, but that's just too much for the listener. So I split that up into a bunch of podcasts. But I mean, the fact that you don't have to do any prospecting calls, and if you don't, like, in a prospecting call, if you don't get someone to be a client, like, the best you can say is it's learning experience. But if a podcast, like Doug doesn't need my help with podcast because Doug's got that set. But Doug doesn't become a client, which probably not, based on just like what we offer and what we do. I mean, we still have a really awesome episode, and we still have so much value we're giving to listeners.
Well, and just keep in mind, Mark, and you make a really valuable point, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I think that you really put people into 3 categories when they come onto your show. Are they going to help me build my community? Are they going to help me gain influence? Or are they going to help me make money? And it's not like everybody I have on my show, I look and see dollar signs. A lot of people I have on my show, I may have somebody like Gary Vee on my show, which we did a couple of years ago. I'll have a guy like Gary on my show because it will help build my influence with my community. I may have somebody that has a pretty big social media following because I know that when they come on my episode, my show, they're going to help me promote the episode to their large community, which helps me build a bigger community too. There may be people that have no community and no influence, but they'd be an ideal candidate for my services. And that's exactly who I want to have on my show when I'm interested in making money. So if I look back on it and through the course of the month, I say, okay, I did 12 interviews, 4 weeks times 3 interviews a week. If I only had 3 of them that were potential clients and I closed 1 or 2 of them into my services, I didn't go 3 for 12. I went 2 for 3. You follow what I'm saying? It's you have to pick and choose who you're getting on the show and why you're putting them in that position to begin with.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I know you were talking about this at the New Media Summit, where it's like sometimes you want to get all celebs, sometimes you want to get all clients, sometimes like it depends on what you want in that moment.
Exactly.
And for someone like you who has like almost 1,000 episodes and breakthrough success, also over 400 episodes, like there are people who like, I want to be a guest on your show, and that's what I'm saying. But I mean, I see this with my other podcast, Profitable Public Speaking, where I don't have people lining up yet to say I want to be a guest because that just has like 24 episodes. So for a podcaster who is hearing this and is liking what you're saying, but they don't have a bunch of people filling out applications, how do you find those types of people who fit the avatar?
Well, everybody that has whether it's influence, community, or money, everybody has a reason why they want to be on a podcast, especially in this new media space. Everybody knows currently that is involved in podcasting as a guest that podcasting is the place to be. So I may do something like I may look at a show that has a similar avatar that I have or a similar market to me, and I may look at their guest list and I might think, hey, that would be a good person. I've listened to an episode or two. That's a good person for me to have on my show. And you don't have to sell them on the idea of coming on a podcast. They were a guest on another podcast. You know that they want to or have something to promote. So early on in the game, your job is to find as many of those connections as you can, referral sources. I'm not looking for the one and done. I'm looking for the publicist, the publisher, the PR company, the promotional agency. There's so many different avenues that I can get other podcasters. Please refer me guests. Even if I can't take them on the show, we have this special spot for people that we say, hey, listen, all of our spots are currently filled, but we do have sponsored positions that are available to come on the show. The sponsored position includes a spot to get on the show, but it also includes 4 social media posts. It includes a blog post. It includes, all of these other things that we are a commercial on the show. So indirectly, and that's all done automated and through email. So indirectly, we're soft selling everybody that applies to be on the show. Now, remember, 20 spots or 20 people apply minimally for only 3 spots that I have available. So 17 people are getting that we have room for sponsored positions available for the show. And if we get many of them, then you know what? We'll go up to 3 or 4 or 4 or 5 episodes a week. Hey, if I can make an extra $1,500 or $3,000 for every other person that comes on the show, and I can make 10 grand extra a month because my slots were filled, I'll figure out a way to put another episode in or 2 in every month. Not a problem at all.
Yeah, and it is interesting how you do that soft sell approach, because I feel like there's definitely a balance between like being over salesy and like just being soft sell. But I mean, like, I'll be on Doug's show pretty soon. I saw how the form works. Like, it's not like Doug saying, buy my thing, buy my thing. It's one of those, like, if you want to buy it, you can. If you don't want to buy it, that's still okay. So that's kind of soft sell. Yeah.
Yeah, you have a couple opportunities. One, when you fill out the application, the second in the follow-up, and the third when the episode airs. So you have 3 opportunities to buy sponsorship to the show, and it ranges anywhere from $495 to $3,000 to become a sponsor for the show, and it depends on how much service that they want for that. And it's really an indirect sell. I never even mention it to anybody. It's all soft sell, and even if you don't have any community, if somebody says, well, how many listeners do you have? That's not the person that I'm looking for to be a sponsor of the show. I have a show called Ford Mustang, the Early Years Podcast. We literally have probably 200 listeners per show, which is average, but we have thousands of listeners to the Nice Guys on Business. And if we were to take it's called CPM, the cost per mil, the industry standards for advertising, the Mustang podcast would only probably generate about $5 for commercial air. But the community is so micro small that I'm never going to have thousands of listeners to that show. So I'll sell that space for the same amount that I'm selling my Nice Guys on Business space for, because I'm not an industry standard kind of guy. If you don't want it, don't buy it. I'm okay with that. Don't come on my show. That's fine.
And I mean, it's good to set boundaries and like this is what my price is. And like, if someone's like, kind of wants a lower price, I mean, that's the person who, you don't want to lower your price. Not going to be my client. And you know what? It also proves to me another thing too. If I end up turning that guest into a client or using that as a prospect in my guest to client strategy, that'll never be a client he's not willing to pay $500 for something I know is much more valuable than that. He's not going to pay between $5,000 and $10,000 for a full service, podcast launch. Now, he may be a DIY kind of guy, and we have a program for him too. But
ultimately, I'm not looking for the person that, you can dollar shop me all you want. There's only going to be one cheapest guy, and that's a race to the bottom, and I don't want to win that race.
Now, I mean, I like the idea of like having guests sponsor some of the episodes. Is there a way that you reach out to traditional sponsors? I know you got to have a ton of listeners before you even think about that. So I'd like, for a new podcast, I would not recommend this, but like for someone who's a little bit more established, like, do you have a system for reaching out to more traditional kind of sponsors?
No, I don't think I would. I would tell you not to do anything traditionally. Again, I'm going to take my Mustang podcast as the example. We have somewhere between 200 and 300 listeners for every episode, and the show is only about 20 episodes in, maybe a few less than that as of the recording of this. If I'm looking for a sponsor, I'm self-selling the same way that I self-sell on the Nice Guys on Business. I am never seeking sponsors because I think there are so many more effective ways to make money from your show. And the other side of it is when you're looking for sponsors and you're actually actively seeking those sponsors, you've just created another job for yourself. And I'm not looking to make $1,000 or $2,000 a month. I want to make $15,000, $20,000, $40,000, $100,000 a month using my show as the tool. So for me, if I can't do it that way, I don't want to do it at all.
I mean, it's amazing how, because I have like some of the traditional sponsors. I have a mix of like traditional sponsors for my show. I'm going to be doing the soft sell pretty soon because I've seen you do it. It's like one of those things where you see it and you just realize you got to do it, but you haven't made time for it yet. One thing I also do is I also do Fiverr. And the reason being Fiverr is because it's one of those things that I don't promote anymore, but still get sales. So it's one of those like passive sponsorship streams. So just to think non-traditionally, think outside of the box can really help you, not just in podcasting, but any business model.
Are you talking about like affiliate relationships with an outside company?
Oh no, I'll say like for Fiverr, like I actually have like you could like recommend a book. Like I'll promote your book on my show, and it's one of those like passive things that I don't promote it. People come in.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways that you can make money podcasting. Advertising and sponsorship is one. Donations is another. Call to action, where you're actually sharing your services with your community. Doing the guest to client strategy is another. There is having subscription-based podcasting. That's another way. There are so many ways that you can make money podcasting. And I would tell people that are listening to this, if you're thinking about getting into podcasting, don't look at just one of those ways. You're going to start probably with one, but expand beyond that. My guest to client strategy is my strategy that I use that is the most effective for me making money. But affiliate relationships, sponsorship, and advertising, those are really two other, very key. Our good buddies Matt and Joe from New Media Summit that have the Hustle and Flowchart podcast, they make a 7-figure income from affiliate relationships, and they're not even delivering any of the services. It's all services that they recommend. Now, they have a whole system that they have in place, but it's awesome just to think 7-figure income from doing nothing more than the marketing of other people's services and not having to have a deliverable on your plate. That's the ultimate in greatness. I'll tell you that. Those guys, I bow down to those guys. They do a really good job.
Yeah, those two are certainly amazing. I mean, just hearing their whole process and how they their email list, like they've had like 120 people subscribe, and their list is only like, it's not that size, but I mean, like the fact that, you have that kind of growth and you just pick through your audience is really valuable to think about.
Yeah. And the other thing that they do which is really cool, is they really only have a handful of really good relationships with those affiliates. It's not like they have 40, 50, 100 companies that they're referring. They really understand. They partner with their affiliates and they build their business on the backs of the other companies, which again is great. And they've diversified. So they're not relying upon one company. If one company goes out, they lose some income, but I know that they would have an opportunity to replace them with somebody else. And with the track record they have, I know that they would replace it and probably do better with the replacement.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so many ways to make money with podcasting. It's just a matter of making it happen and just picking some time to sit down, start your podcast if you haven't already, really take your podcast to the next step if it's not there yet. One question I do want to ask you, though, is that, right now you're doing great with podcasting. It's pretty clear that you're doing great with podcasting, but what would you say really hurt you the most during those first 2 years when you say podcasting wasn't really working for you?
Yeah, not understanding what my goals of the show were. So for me, it was all about, I'm sitting here a year into this thing and thinking, why am I not making any money from this? And realizing I'm not making any money because I have not really built a valuable community and engaged my community. And I haven't really created a service around the community that I thought that they would like. So it took us 17 months to make Cent One. And I mean, I think I don't know the exact numbers on month 18, but it was at the first New Media Summit when we got involved, and I created a show all the way around New Media Summit, created an entire podcast around New Media Summit, had 40 people come on my show and closed 7 into my services, and I think we made close to $40,000, and we hadn't even launched the show yet. So from my perspective, I look at that and think, the biggest mistake that I made was actually not understanding why I was in the game. I could say, yeah, I'm in it to make money, but I had no plan in place. I didn't have a system. So create a system that works. We've obviously created a system that works for us. We sell that system to other people either looking to get into podcasting or looking to take a podcast that isn't doing well monetarily, and we help them monetize their show. So for us, it was all about creating a great back-end system.
Yeah, and I hope you guys heard that. Doug was making this money with the podcast before he even launched it. So that really
right.
just like breaks the excuse of like you need to have an audience, you need to be established, and
you totally don't.
Yeah.
Nope.
And speaking of the New Media Summit, really great event. 40 podcasters come together. All the people who attend, they usually get booked on dozens of shows. So definitely a really great event. If you do go, you get to decide for yourself whether Doug is better at hosting a podcast or hosting a game of Simon Says. So
that's cool.
A lot of excitement at New Media Summit, which we will link to in the show notes. In addition to the New Media Summit, we'll obviously link to Nice Guys as well. Where are some other good places we could find your work?
Great. Yeah. If you want to get more information, if you want to figure out what the 5 ways to make money podcasting, the best way to do that is just to go to turnkeypodcast.com/gift, GIFT. If you wanted to get started in the podcasting space, but you wanted to do it on your own, right now we're running a moving special because we've just recently moved from one learning platform to another. The DIY program that we have is typically $1,500, but we're doing it in the moving special for $297, and that's just turnkeypodcast.com/DIY. It will tell you all the bonus stuff that you get, the materials that you get, and it will cover exactly what's included as a part of the course. And it's, I think, 80% off of retail. I don't know why I'm doing that. I'm just doing that.
Well, all those links will be in the show notes for anyone who wants to take action. My book, YouTube Decoded, will be down there as well. But once again, Doug, thank you so much for coming on Breakthrough Success. It was such a pleasure having you on the show. Marc,
man, I'm so proud of you and so proud of everything that you've accomplished. And I want my son to hang out with you, because if my son, who's 23, can accomplish half of what you've accomplished in a short period of time, then he's going to be going well. So thank you, Marc, for all that you do. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your community for listening to the show.
Thank you. Doug, once again, thank you so much for coming on Breakthrough Success. I mean, meeting you at the New Media Summit twice and many more times in the future, it's just amazing to see what you're doing. And I love the different ways that you're growing and monetizing your podcast. So thanks for sharing with my listeners a little bit on how we can do that. And for everyone tuning in, we have another episode next week. That the next episode is going to be about podcasting as well. So if you want to figure out, we talked a little bit about monetization, cool strategies, but if you want to also learn how to use podcasting to grow your existing businesses and some creative ways you can get more downloads and exposure for your podcast and entire brand, you will definitely want to listen to that episode. And if you are someone who is considering starting a podcast, I would suggest having a conversation with me or Doug. You're getting a great person either way, even if you don't use any of our services, just to get an idea of what podcasting is all about. I do suggest you reach out to one of us just to learn a little more, because I could definitely say podcasting has been such a big difference maker for my business. And everyone who I really meet who's been podcasting for a while typically says the same thing. So just wanted to throw that out there for anyone who's interested. But anyway, once again, I do appreciate you guys so much for listening into this episode. If you guys could leave a review on iTunes, that would make a big difference for the show. And signing off, what I want you guys to do is to dream big, achieve greatness, and unlock your potential today.